Welcome, everyone. You are listening to TALRadio, and this is RJ Saankhya hosting you through the interview today. So, some of us provided with huge resources, yet lack of passion gets us nowhere. While some of us filled with immense passion for better life and education still remain in the same place because of lack of resources and support. And out of them, only some are lucky enough to be coming across an organization which is helping them in their journey and leading them to success. And yes, I am talking about Huckleberry Youth Programs. Huckleberry Youth Programs is one such non-profit organization which strengthens families and empowers young people with services and promotes safety in times of crisis. Physical, emotional health is also taken care of, and social justice in community facing inequity and educational success is provided. So today, I'm thrilled to be hosting Huckleberry Youth Program's Director Executive, Mr. Douglas Stiles. He is a man who has dedicated his life for providing social services for underprivileged youth, helping to ensure that they receive the education and support they need to thrive. And through his work, he has been able to touch the lives of countless people, providing with them with the tools and resources that they need to succeed. And that's exactly what makes me feel so privileged to be interviewing him today on Tal Radio. So without a further ado, let me welcome Mr. Douglas Stiles. So welcome, Mr. Douglas Stiles. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well, and thank you for inviting me to this conversation today.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, yeah, let me start with the first question. I am really interested that you are in this field of, social service sector for over 20 years. You have 20 years of experience, right? So, can we know what services they were?
Well, it's been a lifetime, so it's quite a diverse of things in terms of my journey to how I got to where I am today. I
Mhm.
started off actually in the theater. I was a theater director and did a lot of theater workshops with young people and adults, and found that there was something more going on than just putting on a show. And so I started to study psychology and went into the field of clinical psychology, worked with adults in the Veterans Administration in the United States, and worked a lot with traumatized veterans, and then transitioned over to working with families who were struggling because of trauma. And for about 20 years, I've been working in the field of family and youth work, focusing on trauma, but also focusing on resilience and how people can re-engage in their communities. So it's been a long journey. I've worked with people in various places across the United States. Now we're in San Francisco and in Marin County with Huckleberry Youth Programs.
That's great. That's amazing. So, you have a lot of experience. So, what exactly does social service mean to you?
Well, social services, it's a broad term. I think that the work that we are doing at Huckleberry, and which I'm really proud of, is that when we engage with young people and their families,
Mm.
we're not just talking to someone because they have a problem or they've come to us because of some disadvantaged situation. We're really looking at
Mm.
people because of the social network that they're involved in, and how can we reconnect them to their community so that the strength of their community can buoy them up. So
Mm.
to me, social services is a term that's not as descriptive as I would like it to be, because
Yeah.
it's about community building and about engagement and about I mean, there's that social component, but it's really about engaging people both in their own personal life, but also reconnecting them to their community that can strengthen
Yeah.
them.
That's wonderful. So, you have provided mental health services to youth and also parents of young children and provided training programs for counselors, right? So, what makes you think that mental health holds such importance?
Well, if we've seen through the pandemic, many people who are normally resilient have really struggled. And that's not just the young people who we see in the news quite a bit. Young
Mhm.
people were at home, not in school. They were not seeing friends as much, and missed some of that social development that happens in the young stages. But we also saw it with
Yes.
adults and people just lacking those connections that were happening previously, and the unknown future that was happening to all of us across the world.
Yeah.
And I think that our mental health is critical, as we've seen through this process. The numbers of people who are anxious, depressed, lonely, um, just burnt out on everything. Those numbers
Yeah.
are growing, and so we need to find better ways to address this epidemic that's coming out of the pandemic in terms of people's
Yeah.
mental health.
I agree on that. So, you are the executive director of Huckleberry Youth Programs. So, tell us about its mission, vision, and aim.
Sure. Huckleberry Youth Programs has been a long staple in San Francisco and Marin County. We started back in 1967 during the Summer of Love, when many young people were coming to San Francisco trying to be enlightened and finding themselves homeless or on the streets. And a
Yeah.
group of people got together and started the first runaway shelter in the United States, Huckleberry House, really
Yeah.
looking at young people, as I've said before, like what's their whole experience, not just treating them as somebody who's lost or homeless, and reconnecting them back with their families.
Hmm.
So we believe that all young people deserve a right to a safe, healthy, just, educated life. And adolescence is that time period where those things can be challenged, especially in families that are under resourced or marginalized, or where systems have simply failed them. And so our work is to, as I've said, reconnect people to systems that are healthier, and build them up so that they're stronger, because everyone deserves that. My kids deserve that as well as everybody else's kids. Our work is to strengthen the individual, strengthen the family, and strengthen the community through engagement.
Yeah. That is wonderful. So, Huckleberry Youth Program seems to be more empowering to the teens. And what makes you choose that specific age group? And also, what are some of the challenges that these teenagers face in which you can assist them?
Oh, that's we could talk for hours about this, because I think adolescence to me is this critical period in young people's lives where they're no longer children and
Yeah,
they're not yet adults. And so
yeah,
it's really a transition phase more than any other phase in life.
yeah,
And it's the time where they have a lot of energy and a lot of creativity and a lot of ideas. And if those ideas aren't understood by adults, they can also be, the young people can be seen as somebody who's, not performing well, or somebody who's oppositional, or somebody who's different. And
yeah,
it's very easy for adults to push their ideas aside and to push their energy aside and to try to form them into something that they're not. And so
yeah,
I think it's a critical period for life development that can easily go awry. But
yeah,
with support, with understanding, with communication, I think that it's also a time of great opportunity. This is where music and poetry and all of these things
yeah,
flourish when people are in their adolescent phase. And we should be tapping into that rather than restricting that. So I think that stage of life is a fascinating stage of life to engage in. It's where there's a lot of challenge, but also huge opportunity.
yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. So, tell us more about Huckleberry community and how is its bonding between the management and all those teenagers?
Wow, that's a great question. So we operate in San Francisco and in Marin County in California,
Mm,
and have an array of services that include safety services. We still have a runaway shelter. We have health services. We run a health clinic in San Francisco and in Marin County that focuses on reproductive health. We have health educators who are deployed into the schools in San Francisco and Marin County who provide all kinds of health education, mental health, reproductive health, relationship issues. We have
Mm-hmm.
a program that works with young people who are arrested in San Francisco to divert them from the juvenile justice system.
Yeah.
We work with young people who are trafficked or at risk of trafficking to get them out of that dangerous situation and to move forward with a healthier lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
It's throughout all of those, we have counseling and mental health and case managers and support because people aren't just a singular issue. People are whole people, and we really want to engage the wholeness of everybody that comes through us. So, in
Yeah.
terms of how we do that, we have a fairly we have a really strong leadership team that is also engaged in the practices that we talk about. So all
Mm-hmm.
of our leaders are engaged with young people and family. They're not separate from that, as well as the rest of our staff. We continue to train people. We continue to have conversations about equity and diversity and power um, and leadership and engagement, because we don't believe anyone has ever finished that education and learning process. Though we are experts in some ways, we're also novices in some ways and need to be open to learning. Um,
Yeah.
and so we have a lot of discussions, trainings, meetings on how we can
Mm-hmm.
continue to improve who we are as an organization, as well as the work that we're doing.
Great. That's a lot of great work going on right there. So this also makes me interested what kind of events that were held out during the pandemic for youth and also for the underprivileged ones especially.
Yeah, so the pandemic has changed everything, not just
Yeah, I agree.
it's changed. Yeah, it so we early in the pandemic we shut down and closed down a couple of our facilities, though we maintained the work remotely. So
Mm,
our clinicians, our health educators, our case managers all moved online to continue to engage with people. And we felt like, especially at that time, it was critical that we continue to meet with young people and their families and continue to move them forward. Um,
mm,
it was not easy by any measure.
of course.
But I think that we were fairly successful, and we learned where does a remote relationship work and where does it really not work. We
Mm,
learned that working with families remotely was very challenging, and so we conduct all those family sessions now in person. There's no substitution for meeting with somebody, looking them in the eyes, and having a real conversation.
mm.
And there's times that we can be effective without doing that, but there's no substitute for that. And we clearly learned that during the pandemic as well.
Yeah, I get that. Now, can we hear some success stories from your organization?
Sure. It's amazing when I'm out and about in my community in San Francisco and Marin. It's nearly monthly that I bump into somebody. If I'm wearing a shirt that says Huckleberry Youth Programs, or I have a hat on that says Huckleberry Youth Programs,
Mm,
almost monthly, somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I know Huckleberry. I was there. You changed
wow.
my life. You are the organization where it was the first time that an adult actually listened to me and listened to what was going on in my life."
Yeah.
And so I hear these stories again and again and again, which is really rewarding because it feels like we're actually having an impact, not just on individuals, but in our community. And
Yeah.
we've actually had some of those successes come back and talk to the young people about their experience. So it's not just we help people and they move on, but it is a community. There's a feedback loop that happens.
So, getting such compliments from people and, people recognizing you, being so thankful to you, all already have made you feel so fulfilling about being in this profession. But I also want to know what makes you wake up for work every day? What is even more like fulfilling in this profession?
I think it goes back that idea that I probably have held my whole life, which is creativity and hope are the antidote to the regular challenges and difficulties that we have in life. We know, again, talking about the pandemic, where many people are burnt out and tired. It's just hard to think. It's hard to be creative. It's hard to think in a different way. And that's where we get stuck. And so, what charges me up when I wake up is to
Yeah.
be a participant in generating creativity and generating hope, in engaging people in their passion, whatever that may be, so that they can overcome as I said, the regular challenge of life, which is really hard. Life is a challenge. It is not easy and simple for most
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
we need to work and we need to engage with each other in order to overcome that. So and again, adolescence is a period where creativity and hope are ripe, and it's a great phase of life to grab onto when you're thinking about those two issues.
So we've come to the end of the interview right now. But also, before we go, is there anything that you would like to convey to our listeners through Tal Radio?
Well, I think the only thing that we didn't talk much about is, as a nonprofit organization, we are part of the community, and to survive in that community, we need engagement with our community, and we're pretty strong, but we can always be better in that way. And
Yeah.
that engagement is through volunteerism, through donations, through
Mm.
support in various ways. We're not alone. We're a servant of the larger community, and so any way that people would like to reach out to Huckleberry
Yeah.
and participate in our mission, that would be great.
Yeah. Looking at all the good work that you already do, it's really convincing that, people would love to come ahead and, help you out. So, yeah. So that is the interview for today, and it has come really well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
Yeah. Thank you. So that was Mr. Douglas, and it has been really inspirational interview getting to know all the good work that they do. And we will keep you inspiring in a lot more ways with more interviews like this. And until then, this is me, RJ Saankhya, and you are listening to TAL Radio.